What's happening, everybody? Happy New Year's Eve, and welcome to the People's Fabulous Big Bet podcast. I am your host. I am Memphis, and we are going to get into Week 17 here in just a couple of minutes. No Dr. Kyle today. He is on punishment. He is banned from the studio. His bets have been so bad, he is in betting purgatory. We're giving him a big old timeout. Nope. Just kidding. Dr. Kyle is on a work trip. He is traveling back from the state of Texas. He's going to be spending New Year's Eve with his lovely wife and 2 dogs, and he won't be joining us. So that's why we didn't record live on YouTube on Wednesday evening. That's why I'm doing this Thursday morning. I actually had to travel from Indianapolis, Indiana to Evansville, Indiana to visit my brother-in-law and his wife and family. That's about a 3-hour trip, except when it starts snowing and it turns into about a three and a half hour trip. So back safe, just me and the wife hanging out here at the house. So I thought I'd knock out a People's Propcast this morning. I do have a bet from Dr. Kyle for you. I am just joking. He is my buddy, and I'm damn glad to have him as my co-host and on the DWZ team. What's on the horizon? We're working on getting you an MRI. He is going to be back and going to try to do an MRI podcast with Maddie Big Chest this week. And I'll be doing the People's Propcast this weekend. You got to be tuned in to the People's Propcast. I've been around 60% here on the Fabulous Big Bet on the season, but on the People's Propcast, I have had 9 straight winning weeks. And in that time frame, I've been 20 winners and 7 losers. It feels like injury has gotten the best of me, and injury with the Detroit Lions has really killed me. I'm talking to you, Jerry. I'm talking to you, Maddie. I'm talking to all of you Lions fans. The Detroit Lions are absolutely killing me. I had a prop bet earlier in the season on Kenny Golladay against the Colts. Got hurt. Had a prop bet this week on Matt Stafford. Got hurt. But in spite of all that, continue to do well on the Propcast. And what's in the rearview mirror? Wednesday on the Dynasty Warzone pod, we did our 2021 New Year's resolutions. Things that we've done well and going to continue to do. And then all the dumb stuff that hurt us from a Dynasty perspective that we'll not be doing going forward. That'll be in the podcast player, and it's also on the YouTube library. Please head over and make sure you're rating and reviewing and subscribing to both. That is where all of our content will continue to be, and it's going to be a big off season here at the People's DWZ Football Network. Don't have any reviews to read this week because I can't read them if you don't do them. So head over to Apple, head over to anywhere where you can leave us a review. Tell us what you want to see in 2021. What do you want more of? What do you want less of? What can we do differently to make this a better presentation for you? We're going to continue to do the DFS stuff through the Super Bowl. Dr. Kyle and I, do the best we can. We're not DFS grinders, as a lot of people are, but we're looking for one. And if that's you, hit me up on Twitter at DWZ Memphis. We will have more DFS content next year, but we want it from a true expert. Dr. Kyle and I try to do it from the gambling standpoint, picking players from the games with the highest point totals, correlating defenses and running backs and blah, 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 blah. But it's not our bag. And if you try to do everything, you end up being nothing. So we can't do it all. I'm really good at the dynasty thing. I'm pretty good at the betting thing. But the DFS thing is just not my thing. So if that's you, if you are a DFS grinder and if you have a track record, now, in fairness, if this is you, I am going to want to see your resume. I don't need to see your financials. That's a little deeper than I want to go. But if that's you, we'd love to talk to you. Love to know about your background as a DFS gamer and what your level of content providing is. We're looking for that person. We want to have a DFS standalone show for 2021. Might end up marrying the DFS show and the People's Propcast into one. A little bit more correlated than the gambling podcast, which is what we do here, and the DFS stuff. So I'm going to jump into the body of the show. I'm going to try to give you 40, 45 minutes if I'm lucky, flying solo without Dr. Kyle this morning. But again, those 5-star reviews, those are the lifeblood of what we're doing, as well as subscribing with notifications on YouTube. And if you're not into all of that and you need something, you can reach out to me at thedynastywarzone@gmail.com. I'm kind of rushing through this. I don't know why. It's not like I don't have time. But let's get into it. And this first segment is brought to you by Veridian Global. Now, that is our official apparel provider. They provide the hats, the shirts, the everything that the Dynasty Warzone has to offer from an apparel selection. We've got the dad hats. There's a nice khaki dad hat with the DWZ Air Force inspired logo. There is the TJ Hawkamania shirt. There is the Aaron Rodgers shirt. There are a lot of different things over at Veridian Global. And if you're looking for non-DWZ merch, maybe you're looking for some Dynasty Happy Hour merch. Maybe you're looking for random player t-shirts. They've got all of this stuff. You have to head over to veridianglobal.com and check them out. That's VERIDIAN, veridianglobal.com. Again, tees, tanks, hats, hoodies, raglans. If you don't know what a raglan is, that's a baseball style shirt where the body of the shirt is white and the sleeves are blue, black, red, what have you. And all these were designed by our buddy Matty. He is our graphics guru here at the DWZ. And check that out, man, veridianglobal.com, and see what they have to offer. Well, let's get into the recap. Not a good week for your boy. I'm glad I didn't post these on Twitter in the DraftKings contest that I'm in. I went 1-4. 1-4. There are no ties in the DraftKings Sportsbook contest because everything ends in a half, and the lines come out early in the week. And, man, I just absolutely took a beating. I'll recap these real quick. I had Tampa Bay at Detroit. I took Detroit plus the 9.5. I think I was a little fooled by the score of the Atlanta-Tampa Bay game the week before. Atlanta's playing hard right now. Whether they're winning games or not, their record is not indicative of the kind of team that Atlanta is. There has been more than one occasion where Atlanta has given away a game. I can think of 4 off the top of my head, and that would put Atlanta right there in the mix of being like 8-7 with the potential of being in the NFC wildcard mix, as crazy as that is to say. So I think I let that sway me a little too much and didn't think Tampa Bay could get margin, and they got margin. They got margin very easily on the Lions, and that was a bad call. The other one, it was like Arizona's playing for a playoff. I had San Francisco at Arizona. I had Arizona minus 5.5. And Arizona's supposed to be, they're at home. Now, I know they're kind of at home with San Francisco. They're not home alone. How's that for a holiday movie reference? They're not home alone. And San Francisco has been there for a couple of weeks, but come on. You're fighting for a playoff spot. You have your starting quarterback. You're supposed to have for Dynasty, you're supposed to have a top 5 quarterback. And for the real NFL, you've got a top 10 quarterback. And you can't beat a backup to the backup in C.J. Beathard and, the third string running back and Jeff Wilson, and you let Jeff Wilson run for almost 200 yards on you. And it was just a horrible, horrible effort. I want to take Arizona this week. I'm not going to get too far into my look ahead. I want to take Arizona this week, but how can I trust them? How can I trust them even against a backup? Because I just saw them get beat by a backup. So I'll get into some of these future games. This next one hurt. This third loss hurt really bad. I had the Colts plus 1.5 at Pittsburgh. Now, this was a game where the line moved a lot. The line started off with the Colts giving up 2 points, and then as the week moved, the Colts wound up getting points. And it was the damnedest thing. They were up 24-7 at the half, looked great, and then all of a sudden, for whatever reason, Jonathan Taylor, who had an amazing first half, if you had him in daily or if you had him in player props or you had him in your head-to-head leagues, you were feeling really good. He got you about 20 points, but he only got like 4 touches in the second half. And I sit here and I cannot explain why, but yeah, that one broke my heart on a lot of levels. Now, as a Colts fan, I'm sitting here hoping that they beat Jacksonville, and I have to hope that because they lost to Jacksonville once. But I'm hoping they beat Jacksonville, and then I'm hoping one of the other AFC teams will do us a solid and take the L. This next one hurt too because I think I'm a closet Rams fan. I like McVay. I like Goff. And they lost. I had the Rams +2. Seattle smoked them. I don't think this game was ever as close as it really looked. The bad, horrible touchdown, horrible interception that Goff threw at the end of the first half. Just horrible. Looked uninspired. I don't know if that Jets loss by the Rams just sunk this team emotionally, but it was bad. My only winner last week was Tennessee at Green Bay. That was the only saving grace of being a Colts fan. That and I won money on it. I had some player props, and I had Devontae Adams in fantasy football, and that will always treat you well. So that was my one bright spot last week. I'll put up my contest picks for this week on Twitter, but the one thing I've been killing is my props. Again, I went 2-1 last week. I'm looking right at the camera. I'm looking right at you, Matthew Stafford. Damn you, but you're actually also one of my favorite players, so I hope you get better. And so next year, what I'm going to do for this show, because we started this, and I didn't know this existed. So Fantasy Pros has rankings. You might be familiar with their rankings for Fantasy Football Analyst. Shout out to my boy Kevin Wheeler at FF_Wheeler. Finished in the top 20 again for the fourth year in a row. Just an amazing guy. If you're not following him for your fantasy if you're not following him for your fantasy rankings week to week, you're missing out on a great follow because he is very helpful in setting these rankings. But the Propcast will be up Saturday. I'd like to get a 3-0 to end the regular season, and I'll be doing props all the way through the Super Bowl, giving you 3 a week. Be hard to go loser at this point, but that's been my bread and butter and making good money with those prop bets. So, and then my big bet for last week. Now this is weird because it's not something that we've had to do before. But last week, if you were watching the show, I had Cleveland and the New York Jets over 47 points. And on Saturday, once all of the Cleveland wide receivers were ruled out. Now, funny story behind that. I just found this out midweek last week, that all of the Cleveland wide receivers were sharing a hot tub together. Now, how dumb are you? How dumb are you after all the stuff we've been through with COVID in 2020 with the Ravens, with the Titans and the outbreaks and you're going to sit in a hot tub with 3 other dudes. I get it. Your bodies are beat to shit. You're hurt. It's been a long season. I understand that. But come on, guys. You're in the playoff hunt. And I predicted you to be in the playoffs. So I need you to get to the playoffs because I have this validation bias that I need to be right. Because I want to say, yep, I had the Cleveland Browns in the playoffs. But I pivoted from this game. So my original big bet was the Jets and Browns over 47. Once I found this out, I pivoted to the Jets team total. The Jets team total on mybookie.ag was 17.5 points, and I liked it. And the Jets are feisty right now. They're in full DGAF mode. They don't give a hoot. They are out here just, they ruined the Trevor Lawrence pick. They beat a playoff potential Rams team. They beat off a playoff potential Browns team. And we're going to talk more about these guys in just a minute. But, yeah, that's why you got to be following along on Twitter. We record this early in the week, and if new information changes, we've got to change with it. I just can't dig my heels in and take the worst into something because I said it on a podcast. So make sure you're following along at DWZ Memphis for all of those corrections, updates, anything like that. I don't have Dr. Kyle stuff. Again, he's traveling. He's out doing his Dr. Kyle thing. So I'm going to jump into my bets for this coming week. And this segment is brought to you by our friends at mybookie.ag. Now, all of the odds we're using today here on the podcast are going to be provided by mybookie.ag. If you're interested in finding a great place to get down on action, there's your spot, mybookie.ag. And if you're listening on the podcast just hit pause, go into the show notes, and there is a hyperlink takes you right to the sign up page with the promo code DWZ Memphis already built in to the page. So just get over there at mybookie.ag. There's plenty of promotions. They'll match your initial deposit up to 50%. So if you deposit $500, they'll match you $250, $100, they'll match you $50, etc. You do the math. If you're having trouble with the math, So if you go over to mybookie.com, I'll help you with the math if I need to. Use the promo code DWZ Memphis at sign up and get going on the big bets. So I'm going to jump into some week 17 games that I like. I have not bet these yet for one reason or another. I will tell you some of those reasons. So the first game I'm going to get into is going to be the New York Jets going to New England, and the New York Jets are getting 3. I think the wrong team's getting points. We just watched Cam Newton and Jarrett Stidham combine for less than 100 passing yards. And the Bills' defense is good, but they're not that good. And I just think this is a backwards line. I think these Jets are motivated. I think Sam Darnold's playing for his job. Adam Gase doesn't give a hoot. He is on his way out the door anyway, so he might as well burn every bridge on his way out the door. And I'm waiting for this one to see if it goes to 3.5. I don't know that it will, but if I could get the Jets plus a field goal. I mean, these guys played a really tight game earlier in the season with Joe Flacco at the quarterback position. I know New England has had Sam Darnold seeing ghosts in the past, but if I can get that half, I think I'm in. The other game that I like this week is Tennessee at Houston over. I like the total over 56. These two teams earlier in the season scored 78 points in their first matchup, and this one comes down to Deshaun Watson's hand. If he's a full go, if he gets in some full practices Thursday and Friday and looks to be 100% ready, I like this. I think J.J. Watt was very fired up to have these guys playing harder, called a lot of people out at the end of the game on Sunday. So I like the over big time if Watson is able to go. Dr. Kyle, he did send me a big bet. He sent me one. He likes the Packers and the Bears. He likes them over 51 points, and he likes it all the way up to 53. I can kind of see that. One thing I checked, because it is January and it is Chicago, I looked at the weather. Weather seems to be no issue whatsoever. It's going to be in the mid-30s, no precipitation. So it should be a pretty high-scoring game. You know, the Packers are playing for something, and that's a big thing. The motivation this week, the Packers want that home field advantage throughout. If they lose and some combination of Seattle and New Orleans, they could lose their number 1 seed. Obviously, they don't want that. But the Bears are motivated. The Bears are motivated because they win and they're in. They need to win, or they need an Arizona loss. And so, but they can't wait, because all of these key games are being played at 4:25. The NFL did a great job of reshuffling the start times this week to ensure that there wasn't very many games that were meaningless in the afternoon slate. And for those reasons, I can see Dr. Kyle's thought process behind these. And 53 seems fair. If you look at it, you think that's like 24-27, to get a push. Can the Bears score 24? Can the Green Bay Packers score 27? I think we all know the answer to those questions are yes. Mitch Trubisky has been playing, I don't want to say great, but he's been playing great for him the last few weeks since he was renamed the starter after the bye. And he's playing for a job. And Matt Nagy and Ryan Pace, they need this playoff victory. I heard it said on a different podcast that this is a situation where a Bears playoff berth could save 3 jobs. It could save Ryan Pace, the GM's job. It could save the job of head coach Matt Nagy, and it could get Mitch Trubisky a 1 or a 2-year extension as the quarterback. So a lot on the line for both teams, and motivated to score. I think the Bears defense is good, but the Bears defense is not as good as the Packers offense. you're going to get points. I will give this one a slight thumbs up in favor of Dr. Kyle. Now, my big bet for the week is going to be San Francisco plus 6.5 at Seattle. Now, Seattle is playing for something. They could finish as high as the 2 seed. Need a couple of things. They obviously need New Orleans to lose, as well as some other things. Now, again, all of these games are going around 4:30 Eastern time. So they'll be watching the game. They'll be watching the New Orleans Saints and the Packers and seeing how these games go. And I could see where if there's no clear path to victory for them, I could see Pete Carroll calling off the dogs in the second half. They're like, well, the Packers are going to beat the Bears and the Saints are going to beat the Panthers, so I'm just going to back it off a little bit and going to rest some starters in the second half to give these guys a break. It's a rivalry game. We know that the Seahawks and 49ers had some great games last year, and we just saw last week, Kyle Shanahan and the Niners, they're not giving up. They're going to continue to play all the way to the end. I won't forget the game against the Packers where the 49ers played the Packers on a Thursday night, and with like literally 4 seconds to go in the game, they scored a meaningless, to most people, a meaningless Jerick McKinnon touchdown with 4 seconds to go that pushed that game to the over. Am I bitter? Maybe, but I remember. And I expect a full effort out of San Francisco before these guys go home for the year. Remember, this is still a pretty good team with some pretty good players. Obviously, they're missing their quarterback and a couple of other studs. But I just don't see Seattle getting this much margin on a team this well coached, even with C.J. Beathard as the quarterback. Obviously, they have Kittle back. We'll see about Debo, but I don't think that matters in the grand scheme of it. Give me a fully motivated San Francisco team versus a half-motivated Seattle team. I think after halftime and Seattle realizes their seeding's not going to change much, I see them looking to rest these guys and take it easy going into the playoffs next week. So I got one more segment for you. Going to jump into a little DFS. But before I do, I want to make sure that I tell you that this final segment is brought to you by my homie, Matt Vincent, and the gang over at Hate Brand Goods. You guys know this is my favorite apparel brand to wear to the gym. If you follow me on Instagram, my personal account, which is Memphis185, you will see me in the gym working out in their goat shorts. These are awesome, and they've got a good number of them in stock right now. But that's not the big part. That's not the big part. The big part is today from 5 p.m. 5 p.m. Central Standard Time and 10 p.m. Central Standard Time. That 5-hour window, their entire shop is on sale, 50% off everything. That's the way I read. There may be a disclaimer on the website that I didn't get in the ad read copy, but I will be doing that myself because that's better than my normal sponsor discount. But I'm going to try my discount code. My discount code is Memphis. You just put in Memphis at checkout, and I'm going to see if that will get me some additional savings on top of the big 50% off savings. So the website is thehate.com. That's the HVIII.com. That's H and the Roman numeral for 8, thehate.com. And a big day to get quality goods at a fantastic price. So let's talk into some DFS, guys. Not the world's foremost DFS grinder, as you know. I have dubbed myself Mr. Mincash. That's my moniker here as it relates to DFS. And in the opening, guys, I was very serious. If you are a hardcore DFS player and you're listening to this show, I would love to talk to you about taking the chair as our DFS podcast host for 2021. Me and Dr. Kyle will grind out the DFS takes between now and the Super Bowl. But if we get a hold of you, we like you, maybe we'll run you out here a couple of times before the end of the season. So real quick recap last week, the good, the bad, and the meh. The bad was Lev Bell. Man, what are we always looking for in every form of fantasy or daily? Volume and value. And man, I thought last week we had good value with Lev Bell. I thought we had the volume with Lev Bell. It turns out Darrell Williams, of all people, was the Kansas City running back to play. That was a turd of the week, along with Houston's defense. I mean, I think Houston's defense, you got J.J. Watt. I know they're banged up and not been great, but guys, were playing the Bengals. The Bengals. And they wind up giving me -4 points. That was gross. I thought that was a nice little find. Not so fast, my friend. And then the middle of the road takes. J.K. Dobbins was okay. I know he got hurt somewhere along the game. And Guyton, Jalen Guyton from the L.A. Chargers, very meh as well. I don't know what's gotten into Justin Herbert. I don't know if teams have gotten more tape on him, if they've changed some play calls. Obviously, with these rookies, there's going to be peaks and valleys, but obviously I still love Justin Herbert for the long term. And I'll be talking about Mr. Guyton again here in just a minute. The guys that I nailed, and I did not quite min cash last week, by the way, in full transparency. I had CeeDee Lamb. I had Giovanni Bernard. He was great at $4,800 last week. The Mitchell Trubisky, Allen Robinson stack was very good overall, but it was just too much meh. I just couldn't get it going with some big scores, and you gotta get that big running back push. We'll see what happens in week 17. I will just hit you with my plays for my personal account. My stack of the week is going to be A.J. Brown and Ryan Tannehill. And this is the highest point total of the week. It's 56 points. That's literally 7 touchdowns. Who is getting those 7 touchdowns? Well, Tennessee's the favorite. Therefore, they would have to score 4 of the 7 touchdowns to cover the number in this game. So how do they score 4 touchdowns? Derrick Henry will, of course, get his, but I do believe Ryan Tannehill, who is the fantasy QB 7 or 8 on the season, will continue to get his. I thought about Corey Davis as a slightly cheaper option, but I'm going with the big dog. I'm going with A.J. Brown. Big chance for some yak plays, yards after the catch, and the dude's a beast. Take a slant to the house for us, A.J. Brown. My high dollar honey is going to be Calvin Ridley, 8,500 at Tampa Bay. As Tampa Bay is the 11th most gracious to the wide receiver position on DraftKings. Calvin Ridley is in the top 10 in 20-yard catches on the season. He's in the top 10 in yards per catch, and he's in the top 10 in receiving touchdowns with 9. I think Tampa Bay, very similar to Seattle, will have their fate determined by halftime of this game, and they will start resting some starters with only one team getting a bye. Again, the NFL has done a great job of making more of these games matter, but I could see some of these playoff-bound teams giving their starters the back half of the game off, and for that reason, I could see Calvin Ridley in a meaningless game really piling on some stats, so I feel like he will justify his $8,500 price tag. My chalk dust player of the week is Zeke Elliott at $6,400. I know up until last week, Zeke had some mediocre games, is the best way to put it. But he came on strong, and I think he may have a little bit more reinvigoration after seeing Tony Pollard do great 2 weeks ago when he missed with his calf strain. Last week was his first 20-point game on DraftKings in a while, and the last time that Zeke played the Giants in Week 5, he had 23 DK points. I just think for $6,400 at that cost in a very pivotal game, that they're going to want to feature Zeke. And it's in New York. The weather may be a little bit rainy. Just a great spot to have Zeke this week. I think he looks back. In theory, it would take a lot of work, but Dallas could still make the playoffs. They're going to need some help. So they're motivated. He's motivated. It's a good cash spot for his value in the game. And I think he's going to justify that $6,400. Can I see him getting 3 times that? Well, sure, it's only 19 points. He just had 20. He had 23 the first time against these guys. Feels like a good opportunity. And then my Mr. Min salary, the cheaper guy that I'm getting in my roster to get these guys in, James Washington, $3,500, and it's all about Mason Rudolph. You know, Mason Rudolph as the QB, these two were college teammates. If you didn't hear that narrative enough time last year, when Mason started a bunch of games in relief of an injured Ben Roethlisberger. I just see that, Ben has eyes for Deontay Johnson. Obviously, Juju's there, Claypool. But James Washington is Mason Rudolph's dude. And I just see the opportunity of him maybe catching one long touchdown. The Cleveland secondary has been very porous. They just allowed 23 points to the New York Jets. So I could easily see James Robinson getting behind somebody and getting us our 3X on his 3,500. So there you go. Went through it as best I can. I hate doing these solo shows that last more than 20 minutes. It's tough. You're talking to yourself and you're staring into a camera and you're reading notes and there's no one to bounce anything off of. But we wanted to get you a People's Propcast. We wanted to get you a fabulous big bet. Last of the holiday weeks. We'll be back on our regular schedule next week. So on Monday, we will have Mock Draft Monday, even if I got to mock draft it by myself. On Tuesday, we're going to do the Dynasty Warzone's rookie 5-question games with quarterbacks this time. Wednesday, we'll be back here to preview the wildcard week 1 action in the NFL from a gambling and a DFS standpoint. And then I'll be back on Saturday with the People's Propcast. I'm sure we'll have Maddie and Dr. Kyle and everyone around for a FlexCast or an MRI. But we're going to get through the playoffs as it relates to our gaming and our DFS and Dynasty. But then, starting the day after the Super Bowl, we will be full speed ahead into our off-season program. I will post that on Twitter for you so you will know where to follow along. But follow me on Twitter at DWZMemphis. Follow the show at Dynasty Warzone. And remember, here at the Fabulous Big Bet, money won is twice as sweet as money earned. I'll see you guys back here with Dr. Kyle for the regular edition of the Fabulous Big Bet. Have a good holiday, guys.